Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Guys, welcome back to r/EntitledPeople, where Karens believe the world revolves around them because they're so special. And in today's episode, a Karen loses it on OP for being on her sidewalk, saying she owns the sidewalks in her neighborhood. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's super entitled stories. Hit subscribe if you haven't. And as always, you can send or link your stories to this email right here. Let's dive in. I'm 19 years old, and after a car accident when I was 10 years old, I lost my right hand and most of the mobility in my legs. This happened about 7 months ago. I'm the youngest of 3 brothers, and I was accompanying my older brother's girlfriend, Melanie, who was 8 months pregnant, to the hospital because she had a checkup. And as I can't drive and neither can she, we took the bus. The bus was full, and Melanie let me sit in the seat for disabled and pregnant women. As I can't walk well, I have to carry crutches and have a special prosthesis for my right hand that can hold the crutch. All of a sudden, I start to feel a very soft and rhythmic touch on my right crutch, but I didn't give it much importance as I thought it was the rattling of the bus. And then suddenly, I notice a tug, and I turn to see an old lady with red hair, and she was looking at me with an angry face. She then said to me very indignantly, "Let's see, young man. Answer when you're called, and don't use crutches to pretend you need the seat. Let this girl sit in her seat." Hearing the woman say that, I was confused, and so was Melanie. I then explained my situation, and Melanie told her that she was fine, and that I need the seat more than she did. Now Karen didn't think that was good enough, and she demands that I get up and let go of the crutches. At this point, I got really angry, and as Melanie is somewhat shy, you could see she was having a hard time. I then took off my prosthesis and told the lady that if she wanted me to get up, she would have to hold me up. And then she attacked me with this splendid phrase. The woman says to me, "If you want that seat so badly, you should have lost your legs." At that moment, I pressed the bus stop button, and upon arriving at the stop, I explained what happened to the driver, and after some trouble and a threat to call the police, Karen leaves the bus. After that, Melanie apologized to me, even though it wasn't her fault. I'm used to being asked these questions, especially by children, but these kinds of people I can't stand. Okay, so if you guys remember the last episode I read, it was another Karen trying to police disabled seating on a bus. And I just want to say, what the heck is up with these people? If you see someone with a crutch that clearly needs the seat, just leave them alone. The nerve of that woman to reach over and try to pull OP's crutch away. And my friggin' goodness, when she said, "If you want that seat so badly, you should have lost your legs," yeah, I think the proper response to that would be, "Mind your own damn business, lady," which is the polite way of saying, "You can F right off, Karen." So I used to work as a host/busser at a hibachi place in my town. One day, this group of 6 or 7 ladies comes in, and before I can say anything, one of the women says, "I have a reservation for Karen." After checking her reservation, I noticed that they're 30 minutes early. I tell her, okay, that we're currently cleaning off a table for her and her friends. Hearing me say that, Karen's absolutely flabbergasted. She's astonished that we don't have a table ready for her immediately. I then explained that she's a bit early, but that's no big deal. We'll get them seated as soon as we can. She then goes off about how it shouldn't matter if they come early, and that we should have a table reserved specifically for her, even if they showed up 2 hours early. She then tried to explain to me, a person who works there, that that's how reservations work. Now obviously we can't reserve a table all day for a reservation. We only have 12 grill tables and we're a busy restaurant. Finally, I get them seated and tell them their waiter would be over momentarily. As I'm walking back to the front desk, she snaps her fingers at me and I turn around and she's following me. Now I don't want to fight, I just want her to leave me alone, so I ask, "What can I do for you?" She then says they need drinks and starts listing all these drinks that I don't know. I'm only 16 years old at the time, but I'm pretty tall for my age, so I do get asked for drinks a lot. I explained to her that I'm only 16 and can't serve them alcohol, and that a waiter would be with them soon. Apparently she doesn't care. She then gets mad saying that it's my job to serve customers, and that as a customer, she's basically my boss. I'm at the end of my rope here, but it's not worth an argument, and I don't want to give her attention like that because she's a piece of crap and not worth my time. So fast forward to the end of the meal. They're the only ones left because they took so long to eat. Their reservation was at 7:30 and they were there until we closed at 10 o'clock. At this point, we've been so patient with them, and we've even stayed open a little past closing for them, 15 minutes. The Karen in charge then stomps up to my desk after I ignore her attempts to get my attention with snapping her fingers. She's outraged that we have a gratuity, a service fee of 20% for large groups. I explained that it's mandatory for groups of 6 or more, which is pretty standard, I think. She says that she should be exempt from tipping because she should have been warned about it on the menu. I then pull it up in my phone and show it at the top right of the first page in all caps and bolded, saying 20% gratuity for large groups. Seeing that, she's furious and she has some choice words for me. But Karen is smart. She has a solution. She says to me, "We'll just scratch it out on the receipt." I inform her that it's our policy and that the tip will still be applied. I apologize for the lack of inconvenience, or rather her lack of competence. On her way out, they were all glaring at me as Boss Karen tells me that they would never be returning. After ignoring her, I went to clean the table and oh my gosh, all the receipts had the gratuity scribbled out and they had been torn to pieces. I assembled the 6 or so pieces, and the back read, "Terrible service, never coming back, F you." I never saw them again, luckily. Anyways, thanks for listening to my TED Talk. Yeah, so I don't think that woman ever planned on paying that gratuity at all, let's be real here, guys. OP should have gotten the manager involved for sure at that point and let them deal with the situation. Like, what I get from these stories is people love not paying for things, and they'll use any excuse in the book to not pay, just like this next Karen right here. Okay, so the place I work at is a hole-in-the-wall restaurant in a really small farming town. Think of Dog River from the show Corner Gas, and it describes the vibe of the place. The outside is run down, since the upstairs tenants are car farmers, so there's broken down cars all over the property. The food's really good, and it's become the meeting place for a lot of locals, mostly farmers and old-timers. The interior of the place is really cute, and it has this old-fashioned vibe to it. The food is also amazing, in my opinion, and the prices are pretty cheap. So on this day, we get a group of 3 middle-aged women come in, and they're instantly complaining about the outside of the place being messy and run down looking. I guess they're from a nearby city and saw that the restaurant had excellent reviews on Google, and they want to try the place out. The server kindly told them that the restaurant has no control over what the outside of the place looks like, and then made a joke saying it's a good thing you don't have to eat outside. At that, the women get offended and complained that we weren't taking their suggestions seriously. They then all ordered Eggs Benedict, and one of them asked for it to be made without hollandaise sauce. They also complained about the service being slow, but given that we're pretty slammed that day, and we only have one cook, we're doing our best. The lady that wanted no hollandaise sauce then comes to the counter, and she rudely told us to add hollandaise sauce because she wanted on the side because she wasn't sure if she liked it. We offered to let her sample some, but she refused. Once their food was served, she tried to send back the sauce, but the server told her that we couldn't take it off the bill because we can't serve that sauce to someone else. She then complained, but the server stuck to her guns and told her next time, try the sample when it's offered to make sure she likes it. We usually let people sample stuff, so this exact thing doesn't happen. At this point, it was close to closing, so we stopped serving new customers and we started doing our closing duties. The women all of a sudden get up and left, and we realized that they haven't paid yet. The server chased them outside and told them that they forgot to pay. They told the server that since we closed while serving them, they didn't have to pay. The server told them to pay, and then they changed the story and told the server that since the hollandaise sauce wasn't taken off the bill, they weren't planning on paying, and they refused to pay. Of course, the server tells them once again that they had to pay for the food they ordered, and since there was nothing wrong with the sauce, it wasn't coming off the bill. The server then threatened to call police if they didn't pay, and if they left, they would record their license plates and they would be banned from the restaurant as well. So they reluctantly paid, and of course they didn't tip. I still don't understand how they thought they could have gotten away without paying. They kept saying over and over, "You're closed, we don't have to pay." Oh yeah guys, that's Karen logic for you. That group totally lives in their own world. And the crazy thing is, I bet they've tried that multiple times. "Oh, you're closed? We don't have to pay?" Listen guys, I can guarantee you that that excuse works 0% of the time. That's like customers in retail stores making that lame, "Oh, it's not scanning, I guess it's free" joke. No, it's not free. I'm a 25-year-old female and I love to bake. It's a big passion of mine and something I love to do as a hobby in my free time. I also have an Instagram account that I use to show off my work, which is mainly the cakes I bake and decorate. I make these cakes for family and friends for birthdays or special occasions such as Christmas, Easter, etc. The thing is, I never charge for these cakes, but I'm always compensated in some way by my family and friends. They'll usually gift me money or a gift card to my favorite restaurant, or make me a dish in return as a thank you. So my younger brother, who's 23 years old, and his fiancée were planning their wedding, and they asked me a few months in advance if I would bake them a cake. This would be my biggest order yet. They wanted a 3-layer cake because the wedding was 75 people, in the flavor of strawberry shortcake, as it's their favorite. Now, I was hesitant at first, but I agreed to make the cake under the condition that I was compensated for it. I then explained to them that this was the biggest order I've ever had, and it was going to take up a lot of my time, labor, and be costly. I gave them a very fair price for a cake of that caliber. They agreed. I also made it clear that I wanted to be paid before the wedding. I provided them multiple sketches of what the cake would look like, made a practice batch of the actual cake so they could sample it, and they loved the cake and they approved everything. So fast forward to the last week, 6 days before the wedding. I contacted my brother for the payment, as I was going to get started on buying the ingredients for the cake. He assured me that he would drop off my check the next day. So the next day came, and my brother went missing in action, and no check arrived. So I tried to contact him again. The next day came, no check again. I then offered to drive to their house to pick up the check, and they make an excuse that it's too much work, and it didn't work with their schedules. So the day before the wedding, I contact both my brother and his fiancée asking again. And at that point, they blow up on me, telling me that I'm a selfish bitch for charging them when I don't charge the rest of the family, and they refuse to pay, and demanded I make the cake. At that, I said no, and I explained my terms again. They called me selfish and said I'd better make the damn cake. Again, I said no. So the day of the wedding, I decide not to attend due to the amount of disrespect they showed me. Well, my brother, his fiancée, and her family are now blowing up my phone, sending me all kinds of nasty, hurtful messages. My family are trying to stay out of it, but they don't think I should have screwed them over like that. So am I the a-hole for not making the cake after they refuse to pay me? Yeah, so I don't think OP's the a-hole at all, guys. Like, they personally knew exactly what they were doing. Like, the couple probably had it in their heads that family equals free. Like, there's no excuse. They had months to pay OP, and they were dragging their feet the whole time, all the way up until the wedding. And then they tried to say that OP needs to make it the day before. So pretty much what I got from this post is they're calling OP the selfish a-hole because they have to pay for something that cost a lot of time and money. And guys, you have to wonder, like, what the heck was their wedding day like without a cake? I don't know, maybe they got a Dairy Queen ice cream cake or something. So the other day at my job at the museum, I was on welcoming team duty. Basically, we welcome people at the entrance and check tickets, answer questions, and give directions. I was there with 2 colleagues. So a little detail that's important later is we have radios and headsets to communicate with one another and our supervisors when we have to share important information, such as, oh, there's a man with a service dog, etc., etc. So that day, I was welcoming visitors when Karen walks in. I go to welcome her and ask to see if she already has her ticket to scan it. I say hi in my overly chipper customer service voice as I approach and ask for the ticket. She doesn't say hi to me. She stops, gives me this once-over look, and stares at me very intently. She stares at my face and then says to me, "Seriously, you work in a museum and you come here looking like a frickin' slut?" She was referring to my makeup. Now, I have a uniform, but it's really dark and dull, and I look more goth than Wednesday Addams in it. We can't dye our hair, but there's no rule about makeup, so I tend to do very colorful, bright eye makeup with glitter and shiny eyeliner because I like the color. It was the first time anyone said anything negative about my makeup style. At that, I kind of froze because, sure, sometimes people complain about stuff, but to have someone walk in and the first thing they say is a personal insult, that's a first. So I tell her that no one at the museum ever objected and there's no rule about makeup while looking at my 2 colleagues for backup. They were standing by and listening to the exchange. I see one of them with their hand on the microphone, ready to ask for help. The lady continues and says, "It doesn't matter. You should know better when you work for a prestigious institution than to come here looking like some slut drag queen. Gosh, you millennials. You have absolutely no class or respect whatsoever. I want to see a manager. This is unacceptable." So I get a hold of the microphone and ask for a supervisor to come down to the entrance, because someone wants to speak with them. One of them says they're on their way, but ask what's going on. And I answer honestly saying, there's a lady who says that I look like a slut and I shouldn't come to work looking like this. There's a second of silence, and they ask if the woman really said that to me. My coworkers talk into the radio and said that they indeed heard what she said. Now, what my supervisor asked me to do next, I think I'll remember forever. They tell me to remove my headset and hold the radio to the woman's face, which I do. And then, through the radio, they tell that rude lady, "Our museum does not tolerate any rude, insulting, or threatening behaviors towards employees. Leave now, or the next person you speak to will be the head of security." And her face went completely white, just complete shock. And she did end up speaking with security, and she was escorted out swearing that she would sue us into non-existence. But her face when she heard that message through the radio, that scene will live in my brain forever. Yeah, kudos to that supervisor for telling Karen what's up, guys. Like, I love when managers stick up for their employees instead of treating customers like they can never be in the wrong. Like, I read some of these posts and I can't believe some people can be so rude. Like, whatever happened to, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. This happened a long time ago, but I was recently reminded of it. So I used to have a leash-trained cat named Eva who loved going on walks. I would take her to this nice little trail that looped around a pond, but it only had street parking. So I would have to park my car a little up the street and walk maybe 60 feet on the sidewalk to reach the beginning of the path. On this day, I was leaving the path and we were on the sidewalk, heading back to my car when this happened. When we turned off the path to the sidewalk, I spot a Karen. She was walking two dogs and she was heading towards us. Now, since Eva didn't give a damn about being around dogs, we continued walking in her direction to my car. We were about 80 feet away when the dogs notice Eva and they start going nuts. They were barking, pulling their leashes, and trying to lunge forward to get at her. Now, Karen wasn't doing anything to control these dogs. She didn't try moving them off to the side, shortening their leash, telling them to stop, or anything. Instead, she let them pull her towards us, and she even started doing a little trot to let them run at us. I have Eva stay near my feet so I can pick her up just in case. They get closer, and she's still not doing a damn thing to hinder that, so I move off the sidewalk and onto the street. At that, the woman began letting them off the sidewalk onto the street towards us. They're almost onto us, so I scoop up Eva, and only then, when they're lunging at me, does Karen try to control them and hold them back. Now, I was trying to get the F out when this shrill harpy decided to open her mouth and yell, "Leave! Get off the sidewalk, you can't be here." I say to her, "What the heck did you just say?" She says, "You can't have your cat here. You can't walk a cat on the sidewalk." At this point, I was already walking away from her, but then the woman turns around to let the dogs follow after me to continue trying to attack us. This was all yelled at my back as I tried to get Eva to the safety of my car. I say to her, "This is public property." To which Karen says, "No, this is where I walk my dogs." I tell her, "And this is where I walk my cat." I have my cat in the car at this point, and I'm yelling through a cracked window while her dogs are jumping on the side of my car trying to attack us. The Karen then says, "You're walking your cat illegally. You can't have her here." I say to her, "Lady, what the F are you talking about?" She says, "Your cat hurts dogs. You can't be here. Don't come back." So the rest of our exchange was her trying to say that it was illegal for me to walk Eva on the sidewalk because it excited the dogs. And she had walked her dogs there for years and she lives nearby, so it was her sidewalk. And she'd better not see me walk my cat here again. Now, by saying my cat hurts dogs, she was referring to the strain the collar put on their necks when she was holding them back from attacking us. She then said she's calling the cops on me for walking my cat, and I told her, "Go ahead, call them, so I can report your dogs for being aggressive." Now that did stop her for a second, but as I was driving, she was screaming threats at me about me bringing my cat back. Now I'm not gonna lie, I'm petty. For the rest of my time living in that crummy town, whenever I passed her walking her dogs, I would slow my car down, honk my horn, and that would set the dogs off. I would then flip her off to set her off. It always gave me a smile to see her yanked around by her dogs while screaming at the top of her lungs. Yes, the entitlement of that lady is like next level. Guys, it's a public freaking sidewalk. But are you guys really surprised? Like, if you've been listening to the stories on this channel for a while, you'll know that Karens love to say that they own anything and everything. Everyone decided to test my patience today. I was all alone on the self-checkout, and apparently the Karens decided to come out in full force. From a Karen whining that she couldn't buy a random Christmas bag, to a guy lodging a complaint that he had to put in his PIN while selecting debit, and a lady having me check prices on almost everything in her cart because she didn't look before she took them off the shelves. But this Karen, she took the cake. So this one woman comes up and she scans a $151 electronic thing and immediately cancels after seeing the price. She then asked for my help. Now, she spoke Spanish and some English, but she definitely understood English. So after I cancel it, I went to help other customers. A few minutes later, she kept getting an error screen because she wanted to put money on a gift card, but she didn't know what to do. So I asked her if she wanted a gift card and how much she wanted. The woman wanted $43, and I showed it to her on the scanner and she approved. Now at this time, my attention was drawn to the guy behind me asking a question. I answered and turned around to find her gone. The transaction wasn't completed, but her bags are missing. The woman literally waited until my back was turned to run off with everything. I frantically looked for her and noticed that she was booking towards the door and towards my manager. Immediately, all my training left my head and I screamed in front of the whole store, "Manager, she didn't pay!" My manager jumps into action and stops her and she's all smiles. I come up, customer service smile back on my face and say, "Hey, you didn't finish your transaction, ma'am." Karen, with a nervous smile, said, "Yes, I did pay. For everything." The manager then says, "Let's go back and see what's happening." So in the 20 seconds it took to get back to the register, she dropped her nice facade and she was pissed. She paid some of it with a gift card, and when I told her she still had money left to pay, she looks at me face full of wrath and she spits out, "You pay." And I replied, "No, you'll pay for this. You owe $18. She then shoved a 20 at me, took her change, and she walked off. I wondered if it was my fault until a coworker who witnessed the whole thing confirmed that she was trying to steal and she was pissed that she got caught. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /entitled people. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. I hope you didn't shake your heads too hard as usual. And if you enjoyed the stories, consider subscribing if you're not subscribed. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, a super entitled Karen tries to steal OP's home because she likes it better than her home. It's such a crazy story, so go check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.